I'm Mark Dresner, and this is the Research Insider, a special interview series featuring experts and leaders at the forefront of market, consumer, and shopper insights. The Research Insider is brought to you by OmniShopper 2015, formerly the Shopper Insights in Action Conference, uniting the world's top manufacturers and retailers to activate intelligence and drive basket growth. For more information about the event, visit us at omnichopperevent.com. Joining us today is Jonathan Jaglom. He's the CEO of MakerBot. Jonathan, welcome to the Research Insider.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
It's great to have you. Now, for those in our audience, they may not see an obvious connection at this point between 3D printing and shopper insights and the future of retail. So I'm hoping you can shed a little light on that. But let's start with just a general overview. What is the state of 3D printing at this point?
So 3D printing has been around for almost 30 years. It's not a new technology at that. It's been around for quite a while. But what's really interesting about 3D printing recently is that it's become a lot more accessible to a very wide audience. From price point perspective, we're talking about printers down to $1,500 or above that we're offering at MakerBot. And back a few years ago, that was not the case. When I joined Stratasys 10 years ago, printers were around $200,000. So there's definitely accessibility and pricing, which is allowing not only the big companies to tap into the value of 3D printing, but you have smaller companies and also consumers at home that are now curious and want to embrace this technology and make use of it at home. And another thing that's very important to understand is also the ecosystem around the printers, which is what MakerBot offers, the content. So you don't have to be a designer or an engineer to be able to use a 3D printer. You can go to thingiverse.com. It's a website that we offer as part of the MakerBot experience. You can download a file and then print your files. So there's that as well. So there's a lot of content on the internet today like never before. That allows for demand. That allows for people to then purchase a printer and make use of that for home appliances or either at schools or offices.
What are some of the challenges in this space at this point that you see?
Our biggest challenge is awareness. It remains our number one challenge. People don't understand the value of 3D printing. If you walk around, you ask people like, have you heard of 3D printing? Typically they would say yes. But if you then ask them the first question, well, what is one application that you can do with a 3D printer that you weren't able to do before? Can you give me an example? That's where everyone shuts up and remains silent. What's the answer to that one? So our challenge is still very much in educating the audiences, educating the market, and explaining the value of 3D printing. And there's tremendous value. You could, as part of product development, you could have a part in your hand very early in the product phase. You can iterate it, you can redesign it, you can optimize it. And at home, it's the same usage as at home. You could design something for your house appliances, and then you could reiterate it, you can redesign it, you can resketch it and print it right away. And it's very accessible. It's cheap to make. It's customized, so it's your own design, which is very interesting. But we're not there yet. We're still educating the market.
So where is the consumer in all of this? What are people doing with it at this point, those that are?
So first of all, we have a consumer market. It's there and it's present. We have over 80,000 printers out there in the market today, and a lot of those are in the consumer space, but our focus still remains in the education, the professional. That's the bulk of what we do. But we should be careful we're not ignoring the consumer market. We have over 550 retail stores across the nation, the Staples, the Sam's Clubs, and the lot. So we are addressing that market. People use the printers at home for if they're hobbyists, if they want to design things themselves, they can sketch it. There's a lot of software out there on the internet that makes designing using software very accessible. You don't have to be an engineer or a designer to be able to sketch in 3D. And if you don't want to do that, you don't want to tap into that, you can also just download files and print them at home. You can customize them, so you could you could have a cup holders with your name. You can offer gifts to friends. You could print things at home that you're missing, and all this exists on the internet. Again, at Thingiverse we have over 900,000 files on the net. 900,000 files. So you're bound to find something that you can make use of. So whether you're a hobbyist or you want to be your own creator at home, or whether you just want to be tapping into some content that you want to then print for home appliances, home usage, those two audiences can make use of a 3D printer today.
Now the files you referenced, so these are essentially blueprints
Right.
for various things that you can print, right?
Yes, they're blueprints, but they're blueprints that you can also customize. So you could morph them. You can add texting to them. You could add your name, and you could change the parameters a bit of that file. There's things you can do. There's certain parameters you can do to make it your own. That we're all very it's very important to us to be different, right? To have our own products, our own things at home. So that when someone walks into your house and sees cup holders and it's like Mark's home, I don't know, people, oh, that's nice. Yeah, and I designed that. I drew that myself and I printed that myself. That's interesting.
How sophisticated or complex are the things that people are making? Are these, you mentioned cup holders, but is there a range of stuff? Or?
It's pretty much anything you want to create. There's no geometrical limitation in 3D printing. That's one fascinating thing about additive manufacturing, because you're sort of building up. So when you're building up from nothing to something, you have no geometrical limitations. Think of the opposite, which is where you're removing, or what's called subtractive fabrication. Think of a sculpture that you have to sort of chisel away to get the face. So if you're a portrait in question, if you want to do that, right? You can only get to where you can chisel off the marble or whatever you're doing. In 3D printing, that's not the case, because again, you're starting from zero up, so you have no limitations. So to answer your question, there is no geometrical limitation in 3D printing. That's the wonderful thing about 3D printing. That's what's really exciting everyone. The designers and engineers of the world are really excited about 3D printing for that purpose.
Yeah. And now I know that certain major brands and companies are also interested. I know Lego is very interested in 3D printing. I believe Nike and certain other athletic shoes are interested in it, as well as like Mattel, for example. But are you seeing a sort of situation where theoretically we could see companies, brands selling product direct to consumer via a 3D printer, essentially?
Absolutely. I'm a big believer of that. It's a great question. So I'm a big believer that one day you'll be sitting at home, and I always give the example of my glasses, but say something breaks here, some part of my glassware. I'll go to the to the store in question online, .com, whatever, and then I'll go to the purchase online, and I'll click on that, and I'll buy the part that broke for $3.99. I'll have it shipped over, and I'll assemble it back to my glasses, and I'll walk away. Now, I believe that to be a real reality in the next 5 to 7 years, and I'll watch this video in 5 to 7 years and say I was wrong, because things move faster than you tend to think.
Right.
But that doesn't come to mean that 3D printing will solve all people's problems at homes. And then I do believe you'll have your local fab labs. If you want higher grade materials, if you maybe want metal materials, so you could sort of download that file, go to your local fab lab and print it and pick it up the next day. So I definitely see a world where you have your house, your home printer, and you have more higher grade printers out there that you won't have at home.
Right. And so you said about 7 years or so, because I'm wondering, how many years did it take? I remember when I'm dating myself, but when I was a kid, the joke, the prophecy was that people would have, as many computers in their home as they had television sets, of course, and that came to pass very quickly, we went right past that, right? Is that what we're talking about here? I
think it's happening today. It's a great analogy. We believe that sort of the printers that you had, the computer rooms you had in your 80s, 10 years later became your PCs at home, right? Today we have MakerBot printers in over 5,000 schools across the nation. We're so strong that today people come up to us and say, we want a MakerBot, we don't want a 3D printer. I mean, the Xerox, we want a Xerox that, we want a MakerBot that. So it's really picking up in the school. We're getting traction like never before. Over 5,000 schools already have embraced our printers, and more and growing. And if you ask me, that's your computer rooms in the 80s that I was always also witness to. And then 10 years later, you got your PCs at home. I think that 10 years or less, that's why maybe 7, you'll have those PCs / 3D printers at home. I think I gave the example before as part of this event that I met a girl at a primary school in Connecticut, the Whitby School. I didn't meet her. I saw her work. She's 8 years old and she's printing on a MakerBot and sketching in 3D as well. I saw 12-year-olds using our printers, and these are 12-year-olds, you know.
Right, right.
So they're going to grow and they're going to sort of bring this technology to their homes. I believe that.
Extraordinary. Now, MakerBot, primarily the medium, if you will, is plastic. Is
Right,
that right? Okay.
right.
Is that the case most of the time? I mean, certainly most of the 3D printers that I'm aware of are MakerBots at this point, but is there going to be, where do you see the sort of the material changing? You mentioned, you know, these other kinds of...
Right, so Stratasys is predominantly playing around plastics materials, thermoplastic materials, or PLA. We're using PLA materials, but higher grade thermoplastic materials in Stratasys world. We're experts in that field. MakerBot is definitely tapping into Stratasys to enjoy research done there, and so we'll see more collaboration like ever before in that space. And I think I can't predict the future, but the plastic space is already addressing a huge audience that we are enjoying, and that's really where we're playing right now.
Okay, great. Well, Jonathan, thank you for coming in and speaking with us today. It's been great.
Thank you very much.
And that concludes this episode of the Research Insider. I'm Mark Dresner, and you've just heard the Insight Scoop.